Donald Trump leads the national aggregate by 2.2 percentage points, picking up from a slight decrease in support from last week. And President Biden heads in with a 40.4% approval rating going 3 days from a national debate. Will Donald Trump be able to maintain his lead, or will Biden surge? Today, we're going to be talking about where the election will stand right now. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this. So right now, just to keep things simple, we essentially calculated what we think the national vote share is going to be. Donald Trump leads the aggregate by 2.2%. We project an underestimation in polling data for Donald Trump of 4.5 points. So that gives him a popular vote margin of 6.7. Biden's approval rating is minus 15.2, which is about 22 points worse than what it was on election day. We also see that the New York Times / Siena College poll did a sample in May and then asked those voters who they voted for in 2020. Wasn't too off from the 2020 actual results, so I applied an adjusted error. It gives a popular vote a victory of plus 5.5 for Trump. They also did this for the swing states, and we're going to compare the margins to my model with the adjusted polling, and we see that all of the differences are actually not that off. One state is a little bit outside the margin of error, but all these states are basically within 3.5 points away from each other in either direction. So I find that pretty interesting that the adjusted poll actually matches a lot of what my model was saying. And so based going off of that, we can say that my model essentially has some credence to reputable pollsters like New York Times / Siena. And we're going to see that in my national poll that I'm conducting with SoCal Research, that we're going to ask those voters who they voted for in 2020 to get a better idea of where the electorate actually stands. But you guys came for the electoral map, and that's what we're going to fill out. As of right now, we see that Donald Trump is dominating in a lot of swing states, but also in these deep red states that, he's won multiple times, all of these. And what's quite interesting is that we're going to be adding more safe states into this column this time around, like Alaska, South Carolina, Iowa, Ohio, and Florida, as well as Texas. Iowa and Ohio are 18-point victories for Trump. Texas is around 16 points, and Florida is at around 15 points for Trump. And these margins are pretty big compared to 2020. I mean, for crying out loud, Trump only won Texas by 5, and he only won Florida by 3, and Iowa and Ohio by around 8. However, right now we see a very basically large rightward shift nationally. And what's quite funny is that a very accurate pollster out of Iowa, and you could consider them actually the best pollster in the whole nation, they actually show the exact same result from a recent poll from about a week and a half ago, showing Trump up 18 points with third-party candidates included in the state of Iowa. So I think that that's very fascinating that that's actually lining up with my projection. For the safe Democrat states, we have California, DC, Maryland, Massachusetts, and Vermont. That's literally it. Back then, Biden basically had way more safe states. He had Illinois, he had, all of these. He had New York, Maine's first, giving him 181. But now all those states are gone from that category, believe it or not. And even multiple of them are actually now in the lean Democrat column, funny enough. And so Biden just starts out with 81 safe electoral college votes. And now, based off of the swing states, we see Wisconsin and Pennsylvania being 9-point victories for Trump, Michigan at about 7, North Carolina at around 12 for Trump, Georgia at 11, we have Arizona at 9, and Nevada at around 10, bringing Trump to 312 electoral college votes. And we see Biden in Washington by 8, Oregon by around 5 points, which is close. We have Illinois at 6 points for Biden, New York at 8, Connecticut at around 9, Delaware at 7, and Rhode Island at around 9, and Maine's first at around 11 points for Biden, and Hawaii at 12 points, which literally puts Biden at 167 electoral college votes. That gives him a very big disadvantage to the former president. So I expect Donald Trump to win 312 electoral votes going into the election night automatically, and he has room to expand upon this map. And so we're going to be going over the lean states with Minnesota at 3 points, which shows the polling average pretty competitive, and some data actually shows Trump ahead, and this state did underestimate him pretty much twice. And so I would expect Donald Trump to carry it with the current popular vote projection we have, including the state of Virginia, where he actually leads the polling aggregate according to Decision Desk HQ and is competitive in the RCP, one only down by a point and a half essentially. And so that state's going to be close. I expect that to flip to Trump's column. Minnesota or New Mexico by around 1 point, New Hampshire by around 2 points, Nebraska by 4, and we see Maine at large at around a 2-point victory. The polling here looks really good for Trump actually, and third-party candidates I think are actually going to hurt Trump in the Northeast, funny enough. However, in the Sun Belt, I think they actually hurt Biden a little bit more. Colorado is actually going to be a 4-point victory, as well as New Jersey. These states do vote to the left of the nation by quite a bit. However, I do actually suspect they are going to be closer. They're not voting to the left of the nation by enough to not even be semi-competitive if Trump were to basically win the popular vote by 7 points, which if you round out my popular vote estimation, that's basically where he's at right now. And that gives him a margin of 347 to 191. Now you may say, well, what's actually causing this? What else can you prove to us can actually show this result happening? Now, Donald Trump, first of all, what's pretty interesting is that he's leading in polling data where he always gets underestimated him. You see him competitive in states where he wasn't even competitive before, and a lot of the polling errors in the Rust Belt tend to be a lot worse than in states like Minnesota and Virginia. That explains why all of these states are basically around tied aggregates, while these states are going to be bigger margins for Trump because the polling errors tend to underestimate him more in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania rather than a Minnesota and Virginia, and that's why you see that there. But not only that, we have even more to show you as to why this could happen. We see that incumbent approval ratings actually correlate a lot with the national vote share that a candidate gets, and Donald Trump in 2020 got 46.9%. He had a 46% approval rating. Obama had a 50% approval rating, 51.1% for the national popular vote. Bush had around 49.5. He ended up getting around 50.7% in 2004. The only difference is that Clinton had a 54% approval rating in 1996, but got 49.2% because the candidate Ross Perot got around 8% of the national popular vote, which is similar to what Kennedy could probably get if everything stays the same. And so when you compare the difference in their approval ratings, Donald Trump can actually go up basically at around a 2-point estimation. But since it seems like incumbents tend to underperform their vote share when there's a high third-party presence, Biden's vote share could technically go down from this, and we'd see that Trump would actually be winning the popular vote by around 5 to 6 points in that scenario, because we did see around a 5-point drop from third-party candidates here. And so what's actually funny is that even comparing primary turnout, now this only works for these 2 years because it's the two exact same candidates, so you can actually do a direct correlation. You cannot do this comparing two different nominees because the coalitions will be different. But if we look at Trump, for example, this year you got 16.9 million. Biden literally just got 14.3 million. That's way less than 19.1 million, and Trump slightly underperformed his 18.2 million votes. And so what's interesting is that if you actually get the popular vote of the primary turnout from 2020, you see Trump is ahead by 2.4%, or Biden is, and when you adjust for an error, that actually produces an error of 2.1%. And so if you apply that to the popular vote margin for the primary turnout this year, you see that actually produces a popular vote of Trump plus 6.1. And what's interesting is if you actually compare the primary data and see that, okay, well, Trump got 93% of his primary turnout from 2020, and you see that Biden got 75% of his primary turnout from 2020. If you were to apply that to their vote shares of millions of votes in 2020, you actually get Trump at around 68.8 million votes and Biden at just 60.8 million votes, which produces a Trump popular vote of plus 6.2. And both of those are very similar to what my model actually projects right now. So even historical factors basically determine that as of right now, Joe Biden is going to lose in an electoral college landslide, and that Trump can actually win this thing into the margins that I have right now. I used to be one of those people that said, well, the election's still going to be close because I wanted to believe the conventional wisdom. But when I got exposed to people like Gold Crown Politics and really started looking at the data, you really see that the former president is leading by a pretty tremendous amount right now. And I'm very confident that this would actually be the result today if the election was held right now. Again, this is subject to change because a lot of this is based on current polling data and different trends that we look at. But if things change, obviously, obviously that will be reflected in our analysis. So make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Make sure to go ahead and join the Discord server and follow Twitter in the description down below, because that's actually, I'm going to be posting there a lot more now leading up to the election. So that's going to be quite interesting as well. And guys, make sure to go ahead. I'm going to be dropping a Cash App tag very soon for you guys to be able to donate, because in doing these national polls, the problem with doing these polls is that they are not free. And so this one right now, I'm paying it out of my own pocket. But if you guys want to donate, you should donate to that instead of the live streams, because if you guys can donate to that, we'd be able to get more funds to be able to have more respondents in polls and be able to look at state polls and whatnot to get more accurate data for this year. And when we do the national poll, we're going to be asking those voters who you thought won the debate, and also who did you vote for in 2020, to be able to get a better idea of where the election sample could be. Because if it shows Biden plus 8 when Biden only won by 4.5 and it's Trump plus 2, then I can apply that error and get a Trump popular vote of around plus 5.5 or something like that. And then we would kind of go based off of that. And so that's pretty much it for today's video. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. I will see you guys in the next video.